Welcome to today's art exploration. We're diving into one of the most poignant and haunting artworks of the 19th century, the execution of Lady Jane Grey by Paul Delaroche. Today we're going to explore the tragic beauty and historical significance of Paul Delaroche's masterpiece, The Execution of Lady Jane Grey, painted in 1833. This work captures a moment of profound sorrow and injustice. Let's take a closer look at the painting and the story behind it. Lady Jane Grey, often referred to as the 9 Days Queen, was a noblewoman of England who was queen for a brief period in 1553. Her reign was part of a complex political maneuver following the death of Edward VI. Jane was a pawn in the power struggles between Protestant and Catholic factions. Ultimately, her reign ended abruptly and she was imprisoned and later executed at the Tower of London. Paul Delaroche's painting vividly captures the somber moment of Lady Jane's execution. Let's analyze the composition. Firstly, notice the central figure of Lady Jane. Her white dress symbolizes innocence and purity. The blindfold over her eyes adds to her vulnerability, making the scene even more heart-wrenching. The two figures assisting her are also crucial to the composition. The man guiding her to the execution block shows a mix of compassion and duty. His firm grip on her arm contrasts with her fragile demeanor. The other figure, likely an attendant, appears distraught, adding to the emotional gravity of the scene. The dark, almost monochromatic background focuses our attention on the human tragedy unfolding before us. Delaroche masterfully uses light and shadow to heighten the emotional impact. The light falls directly on Lady Jane, highlighting her as the tragic heroine. The dark background not only contrasts with her but also symbolizes the grim fate awaiting her. Lady Jane Grey was the great-granddaughter of Henry VII of England and first cousin once removed to his grandson, the short-lived Edward VI. After Edward's death, she was proclaimed queen, being given precedence over Henry VI's daughters, Mary Tudor and Elizabeth. 2 weeks after the death of her brother Mary, who had the support of the English people, claimed the throne, which Jane relinquished. Having reigned for only 9 days, Jane, her husband Lord Guildford Dudley, and her father were imprisoned in the Tower of London on charges of high treason. Jane's trial was conducted in November, but the death penalty handed to her was temporarily suspended. In February 1554, Jane's father, who had been released, was one of the rebel leaders in Wyatt's rebellion. On Friday, the 12th of February, Mary had Jane, then aged 17, and a husband beheaded. Her father followed 11 days later. Lady Jane Grey was executed primarily due to political and religious conflicts during a turbulent period in English history. Here are the key reasons. Dynastic struggle. Lady Jane Grey was a pawn in a larger political game orchestrated by powerful nobles. Upon the death of King Edward VI, who was a Protestant, there was a struggle over who should succeed him. Edward VI named Lady Jane Grey, his cousin, as his successor in an attempt to ensure the continuation of Protestant rule and to prevent his Catholic half-sister Mary from ascending to the throne. Manipulation by the Duke of Northumberland. John Dudley, the Duke of Northumberland, was a key figure in placing Jane on the throne. He arranged her marriage to his son, Guildford Dudley, and pushed for her accession in hopes of maintaining his influence and power in the kingdom. Mary I claimed to the throne. Mary I, also known as Mary Tudor, was the daughter of Henry VIII and a legitimate heir according to the Third Succession Act. Upon Edward VI's death and Jane's short reign, Mary quickly garnered support from the public and the military, leading to Jane's overthrow just 9 days after she was declared queen. Religious conflict. The period was marked by intense religious conflict between Protestants and Catholics. Mary I was a staunch Catholic and sought to restore Catholicism in England. Jane, representing the Protestant cause, was seen as a symbol of the religious divide, legal and political necessity. Once Mary I secured her position as queen, executing Lady Jane Grey became a means to eliminate any potential threats to her rule. Jane's existence posed a continuous risk of rebellion or insurrection by Protestant factions who might rally around her as a figurehead. Treason charges. Lady Jane Grey was charged with high treason, as her acceptance of the crown was considered an act against the lawful sovereign Mary I. Despite Jane's lack of desire for power and her limited agency in the events that transpired, she was ultimately held responsible for the usurpation. Lady Jane Grey's execution on February 12, 1554, was a tragic outcome of the intense power struggles and religious conflicts of her time. Despite her youth and relative innocence in the political machinations, she became a martyr-like figure in English history, symbolizing the tragic cost of political and religious upheaval. Delaroche masterfully uses light and shadow to heighten the emotional impact. The light falls directly on Lady Jane, highlighting her as the tragic heroine. The dark background not only contrasts with her but also symbolizes the grim fate awaiting her. The details in the fabric, the wood grain of the block, and the expressions on the faces contribute to the painting's haunting realism. Paul Delaroche's The Execution of Lady Jane Grey remains a powerful reminder of the human cost of political power struggles. It's a masterpiece that evokes empathy and reflection on justice and innocence lost. Thank you for joining me in this exploration. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more art content. Until next time, keep appreciating the beauty and stories in art.